Hello. Today I wanted to record a little video on a topic that's been on my mind recently because, when reading about ethics and philosophy and different ways of approaching the world morally and how we live our lives, there is a common theme that I have seen go on where people have different conflicting methods of ethics, what their priorities are. And what I mean is, I think to get to the point. So, have you ever heard the saying, "The end justifies the means"? Now, the statement "the end justifies the means" means that there's a certain end or a certain goal that you want to achieve so badly that you're willing to, lie, cheat, steal, and kill to get that goal. So under the framework of the end justifies the means, it's sort of like a utilitarian type of ethical system where in order to accomplish a goal, you'll do anything. And so the methods which you use to accomplish a goal don't matter. So for example, if you believe that the end justifies the means and the end is reducing suffering, then somebody can completely justify all kinds of murder on the grounds that when you murder someone, you end their suffering because you end their life, and you end the suffering of others that they're causing harm to. So under the statement, "the end justifies the means," it would be completely morally acceptable to kill almost any human due to the harm that humans are causing animals. But obviously, I don't agree with that view, because if I did, I wouldn't be anti-violence. I wouldn't be pro-life, and I wouldn't even be vegan necessarily if I believed that the end justifies the means, because I always cared a lot about the means. So here's an alternative view, and perhaps somebody else has come up with this idea, but it's just an idea I had. What if the end doesn't justify the means, but the means justifies the end? And here's what I mean, is that when there's a guiding principle in which you value something so much that there are principles that you are not willing to break even to achieve a certain end. So, for example, someone like me who's so committed to honesty, so committed to telling the truth, that even when the truth turns out badly, the truth is still important. It's still important for me to tell the truth, even if it ends up costing my life or the lives of others because I tell the truth. So here's the issue: is some people might think that's horrible to value truth over the life of others. But first of all, just because somebody tells the truth and that ends up costing people their lives doesn't mean that the person is telling the truth in order to kill people. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that it's a question of priorities. Because if saving people's lives is so important that we can lie, well, then anybody can lie in order to save someone's life. Or if they believe they're saving someone's life by a lie, and then they can lie all the time. And then we end up living in a world where everybody lies, and I think that's crazy. So in the end, I feel like a question of our priorities and which things we value more than others is not necessarily something I really want to make a judgment on. Like, I care about truth more than life, just slightly, whereas other people might care about life even more than truth and would be willing to lie to save people's lives. Like, the situation where, you lie to the Nazis to save the Jews that are hiding in your basement or something like that. Or, those trolley scenarios where, like, you have to push the fat man in the way of a train to stop the train so it doesn't kill the other people that are tied to the tracks further down. Those trolley scenarios, like, they're really dumb, but they're actually quite interesting because they get you thinking about these issues where there's a conflict of interest, there's a conflict of ethics. So, for example, a person here's a good example. Okay, this is a really good example. So let's suppose somebody is gay or transgender or something, some alternative identity or sexuality, okay? So they have a trade-off because on the one hand, they might be able to keep their orientation or identity private and not come out in order to keep their job and the approval of their family and friends. But then they feel bad because they're not living their authentic, true life of who they are. But then on the other hand, if they do come out and they do tell who they are, well, then they lose family and friends, their job, and society hates them, but they're true to themselves. And so either way, it's a lose, but either way, it's a win. So they're making a choice between one of two things. And so they can have one thing, but not the other. So you could think of it as a lose-lose because either way they lose something, or a win-win because either choice they make, they win something, they get something. So here's what it comes down to is that's up to you in your own individual life, how you handle things, with your own life, what you say, what you don't say about yourself, that's a situation where you have to consider your safety in your individual situation. But I do think it says a lot about what's important, because there are some people who would choose to go with the flow of society and conform to what others want in order to make their life easier or to accomplish some other goal in their life. Whereas others feel that being true to themselves and saying how they really feel and who they really are is more important. And I'm in that second category because there's things I gotta say that I just gotta say, and I don't know why. I just always have to say exactly what I'm thinking. And here's an important issue. I have never really completely fit in with any group of people. I've never been in 100% agreement with even one other person. And I suppose that's part of being a living being, is that we're all different, But a lot of my friends, or a lot of the people I talk to anyway, that I've done podcasts with and that I agree with on issues of veganism and stuff, well, they have a tendency to follow a certain pattern, like the types of people that I usually come across are probably going to be people who are atheist or agnostic, and a good portion of them are vegan, not all of them, but some of them are. And, they think the Democrats are good, the Republicans are bad, and there's certain issues that a lot of people agree on. But one thing that I still notice that is a little bit weird is that there's this one issue that I still disagree with a lot of people on. And that is the abortion issue. The abortion issue really makes me think a lot, because even though I'm not involved in any kind of political activism, I'm not donating money to organizations who try to make abortion illegal, and I hardly ever vote. I've voted maybe twice in my whole life, and only in presidential elections anyway. So for me, the abortion issue is not a political one. My opinion and what I say on abortion doesn't make a lick of difference in the world of politics, nor does it make a world of difference in who has sex and gets pregnant and aborts their child. Abortion is legal and anybody can do it. So you have to understand that my stating my opinion doesn't change anything, and I know that. So some people might wonder, why do I still hold on to my pro-life views, even though it doesn't really make any difference? Well, this is one of those situations where it makes a difference to me personally. It really does, because it was through the issue of abortion and being pro-life about the unborn that I came to understand that I was a hypocrite because I wasn't vegan. And then I ended up going vegan for the animals. And I feel like because I had that basic idea that that murder is wrong, and that, you know, killing these innocent babies who haven't done anything wrong yet. I'm sure they'll do something wrong later on in their life, as we all do. But it's the very fact that the babies are so innocent, and just like the other animals that humans are breeding and torturing and slaughtering by the billions, they haven't done anything wrong. And so, I mean, I think people can see there is a difference between, you know, murdering an innocent animal or unborn baby, as opposed to somebody who's an older adult human that's done horrible crimes of murder and rape. So there's a difference between, like, say, the death penalty for a violent criminal, as opposed to killing somebody who has done nothing wrong. So there is a difference there. And people can have their own opinions on that kind of a thing. But here's the thing about it, is that this question of being pro-life directly ties in with this topic of whether the end justifies the means or the means justifies the end. Because yes, I would like the end that reduces suffering the most. And I could see how, if I truly cared about reducing the most suffering, then perhaps I would just go, screw it, I'm pro-choice and abortion's great because it kills humans. Like, if I believe that the end justifies the means and I want to wipe out the human population, then abortion would be a good thing by that system, by that standard. If I believe that the end justifies the means, that the end of eliminating the human population is so good that makes abortion good. That makes all kinds of things good that murder humans. That makes diseases, natural disasters, war, famine, abortion, all kinds of crimes. It makes all those things good because they kill off humans so that they're not hurting as many animals. So that's an issue. So obviously I can't go with that view. Therefore, my other option is to believe that the means justifies the end. And so my path, for whatever it's worth, my path is to value truth and to value life, except when it conflicts with the truth, of course. And whatever happens as a result of that, I have to accept, you know? We have a comment. Hi, Pafo. Late-term abortion is only wrong because of the experience that fetus is forced to undergo, the pain and terror, not because a potential life was terminated. Interesting. I feel like we could talk about that. Because, I mean, that's a point that people make. And I think this is actually something that people debate in the abortion debate. And I think that that's a valid point. However, I think that there is a sort of a counter argument to that view, just because of the fact that if you could put someone to sleep and then kill them painlessly in their sleep where they don't suffer while being killed, then you could then say that it's totally okay to kill someone painlessly, you know? So you could justify any murder with that. So that might be a potential problem with that, but, you know, that's just my opinion. Let's see. I have no qualms whatsoever about a life not coming into existence. Exactly, Pafo. This is why you and I agree, because we're pro preventing pregnancy in the first place. That's why I'm semi-pro-life, but also anti-natalist. Yes, yeah. I feel like we agree on a lot of things, Pafo, because you know my opinion. We've talked a lot. And it's an interesting thing because, like, we have options, people. Some people, like me, are celibate. Other people get vasectomies or get a tubal ligation and do various things, condoms, all kinds of things, in order to eliminate or at least greatly reduce the chance of them conceiving children when they don't want children. So people have options at preventing pregnancy, and I don't really think anybody can argue against that. Although there are certain people who are very, very pro-natalist, unlike Pafo and I. See, Pafo and I are anti-natalist in that we're generally against procreation. We're against, causing new lives to exist, both of us. But there are some people who think that procreation is the best thing ever. And I think a lot of the reason, like, some people don't like gay people or don't like transgender people, is because these people are less likely to reproduce. Like, if you're talking like Catholic or Mormon people who are all about people being heterosexual and that, be fruitful and multiply, those people are not going to like homosexuals, asexuals, or transgender people, because these are people who, either by the type of sex acts they do, the lack of sex acts they do, or just the fact that they've had hormones and surgery that reduce their fertility, they're less likely to reproduce. But in my view, people doing things that bring them pleasure but do not result in causing pregnancy, that's a good thing, because it's not hurting anybody. And so that's the thing about it, is that there's more to consider here. There's a lot to consider here that people don't think about, but I do think about this issue quite often, because there's a lot more happening than just when these unwanted pregnancies occur. There's a lot more happening than just the fetus or baby being terminated by an abortion. There's a lot more happening, because on the one hand, you have people who are getting paid to perform abortions. Doctors who are doing these abortions, they're getting paid. It's a financial incentive for them. Also, that means that somebody has to pay them for the abortions. So it might be the women paying themselves, or their insurance might be paying, or best case scenario, the man who got them pregnant pays for the abortion if an abortion is going to happen. But there's a lot of money involved in this. And, like, this is going to sound like a really odd statement. Oh, wait, we have another comment. The Judeo-Christian world, and especially during the time when the Jews were struggling to expand and become a nation, children were your legacy, your glory, etc. Yeah, back in those times, having lots of kids was kind of their thing. Yeah. Let's see, where was I? Let's see, as I was saying, personally, I don't necessarily believe that making abortion illegal should be the goal of this society. I don't think that necessarily should be the goal, because it's sort of like, for example, would banning the sale of meat, dairy, and eggs and all that, would that make people vegan? No. I really think that something can be immoral, but when people try to restrict an action, even if it's bad and even if it's immoral, when you try to make something illegal, people rebel against that thing. So it can backfire. And I do think that that's a conversation society should have, and experts in law and economics and all kinds of things can make certain decisions. And I believe, this is just my opinion, but I believe that the conversation about abortion as well as other topics will be one where neither the pro-life nor the pro-choice views will necessarily win out in the end. And I mean mainstream pro-life and mainstream pro-choice, because most pro-life people are complete hypocrites and they're whack, and I don't like them and I don't get along with them. But I also don't get along with a lot of pro-choice people either, because I disagree with the unrestricted abortion on demand. So, but I think something in between the two has to be more realistic that society can agree on, because it would be a compromise, because we're not all going to agree on everything. But I think it's an ongoing discussion, and I bring it up occasionally because it's my own personal views, but also because I want the conversation to continue. I don't want the conversation to just end and have people go, oh, well, abortion is legal when it's a woman's right, end of story, and then nobody talks about it. I think that's the worst thing that could happen. But anyway, I want to respond to Paffel's comments. Okay. It was an honorable thing to procreate, reproduce, and sire as many offspring as possible. This made sense in that the larger your family was, the more workers you have to tend flocks, till the fields, and take care of you as you age. Children and family meant strength, solidarity, and the survival of your lineage. This was extremely important in a patriarchal society such as the one the Hebrews existed in, and so the idea of a man being with another man or a woman being with another woman literally made no sense to them. If you can't reproduce and create offspring, what's the point? It just becomes another strange and unnatural practice that seemed to have no lasting value. Yeah, agreed, Paffo. I do think that's why so many people have a problem with people being homosexual or even asexual, because it's actually similar. Believe it or not, being asexual and homosexual is actually not all that different, because both of them have a reduced chance to procreate. I mean, they can do it if they want to, but not normally. As a patriarchal, male-dominated society geared towards creating large families and continuing the bloodline of family name, children were your legacy, your way of ensuring your own survival, especially with struggling races like the Semites, who were constantly being oppressed and attacked and enslaved by other more dominant warring cultures. Yep, this is an important history lesson. Yeah. So yeah, really, I think that there are a lot of attitudes about these topics, because we have multiple things going on here, because these things are all tied together. Unfortunately, these things are tied together and they can't be so separated, because on the one hand, we have people's ideas about procreation, whether it's good for people to reproduce or not. And then another thing we have is we have people and their different views on sexuality itself, which is kind of hard to separate from procreation. But people had different opinions on sexuality itself. And then when pregnancy occurs, depending on somebody's views on it and their situation in life, they're either going to say, oh, let those babies be born, or they're going to want to end those lives and terminate them with abortion. So there's actually three worldviews that are taking place, and they're all intermingled and they're all very confused because they all go together. It's a very strange thing. And it made being gay a complete oxymoron in terms of your survival rate, bringing honor to your family, etc. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, seriously. I'm going to eat some of my breadsticks while I'm on this live stream. Why not? So I actually don't know too much what else to say. I mean, I've sort of said my opinion on these things. But I do think about these issues frequently. It's kind of strange because there is something else I would like to say. You know, just as people, there are things about themselves that they can't easily hide, you know. People, they have religious beliefs, you know, that are important to their life and affect aspects of their lives. And there's people's sexual orientation, their gender identity, you know, all kinds of things. Being vegan is another one. Because when you're vegan, it affects your social relationships with people. It affects what you eat every time you are going out to eat, especially, you know. It affects your whole life. And so it's not something you can really hide. Oh, look, we have Hungry Billy Bruce. It says, "What's up?" Yeah. And Papa says, "I was just explaining why that residual pronatalist sentiment lingers and still endures in Western culture." Right, Pafo. I do think that same mindset, that same belief system is still very much alive even in this culture now today. But as I was saying, I think that I have moments, okay? I have moments where I wish that I could be pro-choice and I wish that I could be sex positive. I have moments when I wish I could be that way because if I was that way, then I would be agreeing with the majority and I would be popular. But that's literally the only reason that I would want to have different opinions than what I do is because it'd make my life easier and because I would be popular and I would have more friends if I just pretended to agree with everyone. But I can't do that because honesty. So being honest about how I feel about these things really just completely destroys any chance at being well received by the majority. We'll put it that way. So it all goes back to what I started this video with, where I'm talking about you either believe that the end justifies the means or that the means justifies the end. So I'm one of those people that I believe that being truthful and telling the truth about whatever it is I feel is important, and therefore I have to accept whatever the consequence of that is. So if that means that I don't have very many friends or people don't buy my books and people are just nasty sometimes because of it, then that's something I have to live with. That's something I have to deal with because my path is sort of set. And I sometimes wonder what my life would be like had I never become aware of these issues. I'll tell you one thing, even though being vegan is the best thing that ever happened to me, really, because it changed my views on so many other areas and improved my health. And of course, it's the right thing for the animals, which is the most important part. Being vegan alone automatically makes people think that you're strange, you know? Vegans get a lot of crap from people who don't understand. And as soon as they find out you're vegan, then they want to start quoting the Bible at you and all this crap about God gave man dominion over animals and all this crazy stuff, which is even weirder when you're an atheist and you don't believe that stuff anymore. So it's just weird, you know, people are just strange. Like, and I don't know, the world has gone mad and I don't really know how to go along with most people anymore. Like, I gotta say, like, certain people I appreciate, like my friend Pafo here, who keeps commenting a lot. You know, I appreciate you, Pafo. I also appreciate, you know, Monique, Jamie, other people. So there's a few good ones that I generally appreciate. And also, I think it's worth mentioning that, you know, my mom means a lot to me because my mom is like my only family that I really have much to do with. Although I did do that live stream with my sister that one time. But it really does help that now my mom has come to understand a lot about me. And my mom is now vegan, you know, and we talk a lot and we generally understand each other and there's respect there. So that's really good. And besides that, she's cool about me being transgender and all. So there's that. So that's always a nice thing. So I have a pretty cool mom, better than most people do. So that's nice. So there's a lot to be happy about. Let's see if we have more comments here. Let's see. It's a throwback from the past. An archaic mentality, not reflective of modern sensibilities and our awareness of current social ecological concerns. Yeah. Absolutely. It separates us from everyone, makes life 10 times harder for us. Yeah, he's responding to what I was saying about being vegan makes it a lot harder for us socially. It really does. But I think that when you know what you're doing is the right thing to do and you value that, you'll do that regardless of the consequences. So it's a question of priorities. So I happen to be a person who believes that the means justifies the end. And so did you ever forward those resources about evolution to your sister? Actually, you know what? I watched those, but I never did forward them. I have no problem. I could always do that later. But I did have a question for you about that. You know, I watched that video you sent me about evolution. There might have been more than one, but I watched that stuff. But I still don't see why that's so important. Like, okay, here's how I feel about evolution. I absolutely believe in evolution by natural selection. I've watched tons of videos by Aaron Raw, Richard Dawkins, read Why Evolution is True by Jerry Coyne. So I'm well versed in evolution. I understand the basic principles of it. But here's how I feel. Now, I won't hesitate to forward those videos to my sister or Pafo. Even better, you can send her those videos yourself rather than having me do it indirectly. That's weird. But personally, I don't see the point in promoting evolution to my sister, who's a Christian, who probably will not agree with evolution. And I don't really see much point in it because I don't believe that evolution is important enough to be worth the trouble. You know, there has to be an actual goal. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like some people might view it differently than me, but since we can be vegan and since we can tell the truth and we can be ethical people, even without having to believe in evolution, I think that evolution is just one of those side things that you learn if you're a nerd, like computer programming. Like some people like computer programming, some don't. Some play Minecraft and some don't. Some learn about evolution by natural selection and some don't. But I just view it as an optional extra thing that's completely useless for most of us, like algebra. So that's how I feel about it personally. I've learned quite a bit about evolution, but I find it useless and it doesn't apply to my life. I do believe that, yeah, we are literally biologically related to the other animals, but I also understand that people like my mom and my sister don't believe that kind of thing. And I don't feel a motivation to change their opinion on that, because then that just puts me in a fight against their religious beliefs. And honestly, I don't see the need for that added stress in my life. You disappoint me, Chess. Oh, really? Why do I disappoint you, Pafo? Without an accurate understanding of human biology and our incredibly elaborate and complex history, people fall back onto all archaic worldviews and supernatural concepts like creationism, etc. Well, I don't know. See, here's the thing, my mom was taught evolution in school, and I believe my sister was too. A lot of people are taught evolution in school these days. It's just a commonly accepted thing, and it's taught in public school in biology. And yet people grow up and they don't believe it anymore. And some might say it's not being taught the right way, or that people just have a certain religion that they believe and they're also taught and they have to choose one thing or another. So I would like to ask the audience, anybody who's watching this live stream, what do you think? Do you think I'm right that we should just sort of move on to issues that are important and agree to disagree on the abortion issue? Or do you agree with Pafo that it is ultra important that we all have an understanding of evolution? Give us some comments, people. Just comment later. What do you agree with? I'm curious what people think about this. But I totally understand if you don't think it's worth it for you personally, due to the conflict it might create with them. Yeah, it is kind of like that, Pafo, because I'm totally for people learning about evolution if they want to, but I don't want to push it. I guess you might say getting people to even understand veganism and getting them to understand other things about what I believe are very hard. And there's some issues I just have to not push anymore. Like honestly, I don't expect everyone to accept evolution, just like I don't really expect anyone to accept anti-natalism. Most people won't. It's sort of a thing for certain people like us with a certain mindset. I wish that everyone agreed with us, but they don't. But I also, let's see here. Evolution also teaches us that we are all related and we all come from the same source. It's the fundamental basis for what I know and believe as a pantheist. Well, that is true, Pafo. That is true. But regardless, no matter how you look at it, even under creationism, that's still true. It's weird because even under traditional Abrahamic theism, we're all created by God, therefore we're all related anyway. Like you can spin it into something pantheistic if you try. Like I wouldn't bother doing that personally, because what's the point with that either? I'm not a promoter of creationism, but billions of people are taught that from a very early age, and they go on to believe it the rest of their life. So to a certain extent, I only hope that they can incorporate pantheistic principles into their existing belief system, because some people are not willing to leave that belief system. Yeah, that we are all animals and that the animal kingdom deserves our love and respect. Evolution teaches us that we are family. Yep. There is a certain value in it because some people place a high emphasis in biological family. For example, my father and my sister care a lot about their biological blood relatives. So if they realize that they were biological relatives of all the animals on the planet, that might change a few things, I suppose, if we could get them to accept that. But hopefully that's not required. And I don't know what will happen. Oh, but we got the best comment so far of the stream. I'm a promoter of we don't know shitism. Apocalypse now. Oh, that's good. We don't know shitism. I can get down with that. And that being an animal is not a bad thing or something to be ashamed of. That we are these incredibly complex organism with a legacy that can be tracked back millions of years. Yeah, good. Well, it's getting weird. I think I probably will end this live stream and just continue eating. But I did want to mention something, Pafo. I watched that movie Zoolander, and I learned something. There are things more important than being really, really good looking. Who knew, right? And that Hansel is so hot right now. That was good. That was a good movie. Oh, but that movie was just so funny. Yeah. I have seen a lot of funny movies, and actually, tonight I'm thinking I may watch Men in Black 3. Now, I haven't seen the first two Men in Black movies, but I'm going to watch Men in Black 3 first because it contains a scene that I saw. I saw photos of quotes. Whatever character Will Smith was playing, he was talking about like nail paint doesn't make me gay. Well, sure, I'm gay, but not because of nail paint. It was just funny. I'm like, I got to see this movie. I got to see what Will Smith does. Will Smith is a cool actor. Like, I like seeing him in all kinds of movies. I've seen iRobot, Enemy of the State, The Pursuit of Happiness. I've seen a lot of things with Will Smith. He's cool. Oh, not to mention the new Aladdin movie where Will Smith actually plays the genie. That was a really good movie. Oh, so many good things. But yeah, thanks for the movie recommendations, Pafo. So many good movies out there. So I think I'll get to just eating my food instead of just eating on a live stream. That's weird, though I've been known to do stranger things than that before. But let's see, was there anything else I wanted to mention? Well, actually, yes. Now, tonight, earlier, I republished 2 of my books on Smashwords because all of my books I had written were published as paperbacks and Kindle books on Amazon, but I've been modifying the original files to be suitable for Smashwords as ebooks. And that I like Smashwords, and part of the reason I like Smashwords is that it automatically it distributes your files. When the files are acceptable, they're accepted in the premium catalog. And that's why my most recent things, including my Chandler's Honesty books, you can actually find, if you have an iPhone, you can search on the iBooks store and you can find my books. If you search for Chastity White Rose, it will list some of my books on there because I'm using my new name, Chastity White Rose, as my pen name. That's my name listed as an author. And so you can find my ebooks on Barnes and Noble and the Apple bookstore and other websites that I don't even visit. So that's cool. Smashwords is really good. And it's actually not too hard to get things ready for Smashwords. It's just that it tends to be very picky. Like, yeah, well, there's a whole style guide. As long as you keep it simple, it's not too hard. And what I do when I have an existing book I've previously published, I simply open it up in LibreOffice. I use LibreOffice instead of Microsoft Word. I've never even used Microsoft Word. I don't know how, plus it only runs in Windows. So I run Linux almost all the time. So, but LibreOffice does pretty much the same things. I go in there, I open the file, I clear all formatting. So it basically becomes like plain text, but it's in the document. And then I go to each chapter and I give it a style. I make it be the heading style. And I do things just to make it look a little bit more bookish and fancy. And I can even insert hyperlinks. You can put hyperlinks in it as well, which is important in ebooks because in a print book, if you have a link, nobody can click it because it's just a book. But in an ebook, you can have hyperlinks. So when somebody clicks it or taps it, it'll take them to another place in the same book or even an internet link somewhere. So I actually have some ebooks available for sale. And tonight I published 2 of my books. Free Will and Abortion Denial is one of the books. The other book is Determinism versus Indeterminism. And that one is the book that has the conversations with Bob and Alice, which I posted part of it on Facebook earlier tonight. So yeah, it's an interesting story, but I've actually had veganism being kind of a recurring theme. But the abortion issue is also mentioned in some of my books. And I thought it was worth mentioning as part of this live stream and why it's so important to me still. But yeah, also I highly do recommend Smashwords. If you are someone who's written books, I do recommend Smashwords because they have a free style guide. When you go to publish a book on Smashwords, they have a style guide. They have this whole ebook that you can download for free and you can read it, and it gives you all the instructions of how to get your books ready for Smashwords publication in Microsoft Word. Now, I've had to translate a lot of those instructions into doing the same thing with LibreOffice, but it's not too hard, and I've gotten several books published so far. So I'm doing pretty good, even though I haven't even finished the style guide. There's even a marketing guide, so I have a lot of reading to do. I have reading to do about, formatting and marketing books, and I also have movies I want to watch too, so cool stuff. So I will probably end this live stream now. I think that's all I wanted to mention. But anyhow, thanks for your comments, everybody, especially you, Pafa. You always have some good comments. So good night, everybody. It's been fun.